Yep, you guessed it. It's happened again. October 28th, 2015. 79-year-old Joseph Tucholsky was a bus driver in New Prague, Minnesota. At an age where everyone else would have been taking up permanent residence in a rocking chair, Joseph Tucholsky was entering his 50th year as a bus driver. He said that it was the youthful vigor of the children that kept him in the job. But little did Joseph Tucholsky know that he was about to become yet another victim of white-on-white crime. On October 28th of last year, Joseph Tucholsky had put on a cup of coffee. It was around 7:35 in the morning when he went out to get his morning paper. It was raining as he crossed the country road to his mailbox to retrieve the paper. Tucholsky put on his reflective yellow safety jacket so that any drivers would easily be able to see him. But Susan Russo is a white woman, and as such, the society has spent half a millennium reassuring her that silly things like laws simply don't apply to her. So, as she came up that country road, rather than pay attention to the road, she decided that it was far more important to answer a text message from her daughter. By the time she finally bothered to look up again, she had already struck and killed Tucholsky. Russo then decided to stop texting just long enough to call 911. Authorities declared Joseph Tucholsky dead at the scene. The strange thing is that forensic investigators looked into Russo's claim that she was distracted by texting, and they found no evidence of texting or of any other activity on her phone at the time of the kill. The judge ruled that Russo should have seen Tucholsky regardless of if she'd been texting or not. Tucholsky's children found among his things 40 bags of fun-sized candy bars. They realized that Joseph had planned to give them to the children on his route as treats for Halloween. So, in honor of their father, Tucholsky's children went on the bus and gave them to the kids instead. Now, ordinarily, I would take you through the usual routine of making you wait to find out how undercharged this latest white thug is, but in this case, I'll just get right to it. While it's unknown whether the white police even bothered to interrogate Susan Russo for her crime, the DA did charge her with 1 charge of reckless driving and misuse of a wireless communication device. That's it. No vehicular homicide, no manslaughter, nothing that acknowledges that she took a man's life. And the 2 charges are both only misdemeanors, by the way. See, whenever white supremacists try to drag out their cut-and-paste FBI stats, what they won't tell you is that the FBI only counts the crimes in which the cases led to a charge or conviction. Susan Russo's killing of Joseph Tucholsky will never be counted as murder, homicide, or even manslaughter by the FBI, because she was never charged with killing someone, to say nothing of being convicted. This is why the FBI's crime table is a horrible source to use for stats on racial crime data, because white people are almost never actually charged for the crimes they commit, while black people are charged regardless of if they committed a crime or not. This white thugette killed a man, all because she refused to put down her cell phone, and yet she was only charged with 2 misdemeanors. She didn't hit a stop sign, she hit a human being, a white one at that. Ah, but this is the U.S., where the law is defined by the greater principle of white supremacy, and under that standard, the only thing that matters is the color of the offender. As far as white supremacy is concerned, the old man's life was practically over anyway, so why should we inconvenience this innocent white woman just because she took a man's life needlessly? Not that any of this is news. According to AAA's 2008 report entitled Cell Phones and Driving, they reported that in the course of their study, their statistical model had shown that white respondents and those with higher levels of education were also more likely to report higher incidents of texting while driving. Susan Russo, it should be noted, is a school teacher, white and educated. These reports also point out that the people who feel the need to habitually text and drive are also more likely to drive drunk. Whites are 83% of DUIs in the U.S., and these people are also less likely to exercise impulse control. Just thought I'd throw that in there. According to the Institute for Highway Safety, 11 teenagers die every single day as a result of texting and driving. That's over 4,000 a year. So, it's bad enough that white people lead the league in DUIs, they also lead the nation in texting while driving accidents as well, which is fast becoming the leading cause of death for teens in America. But this tragic episode isn't over yet. You see, Susan Russo, the white thug, at first entered a guilty plea to the charges. And in return, prosecutors dropped the misuse of a wireless communication device charge. The judge decided that Russo was the victim here, and so he gave her 40 hours of community service and a $3,000 fine, which allegedly would go, in part, to pay for a public service announcement about the dangers of texting. This even though investigators found no evidence that she had been texting, and the judge himself said it made no difference even if she had. In fact, the judge even stopped to speak in Russo's defense, saying, and I quote, "I would bet that everyone in this courtroom has looked away from the road while driving." Now, is this a judge or her defense attorney? Oh, but there will be at least some jail time for Russo. The judge decided that Russo should serve a mere 4 days. And she won't even have to serve them all at once. The judge decided that she should serve 2 days on October 28, 2016, and the other 2 days a year later, on October 28, 2017. He chose October 28th, of course, because that's the day Russo killed Tucholsky. Russo read a letter of apology to the court, claiming that she should spend the rest of her life trying to make up for her mistake. I did find it quite interesting that in this case, the family of Tucholsky is reported as having shared a group hug in the hallway with Russo, and that when Russo asked Tucholsky's widow for forgiveness, she accepted, adding, "I know she didn't mean to kill anyone." Well, considering that the judge had given Russo a slap on the wrist, it seems all that was left to do was to say no harm, no foul. This is a rare, very rare instance of a white family who claimed to forgive someone who killed their loved one. But you notice the white media didn't try to coerce them into it or to direct them to do it. No white reporters went to Tucholsky's widow and his surviving relatives and asked them if they would forgive Russo. Instead, they uncharacteristically waited until the family decided, a year later, mind you, that they would do it on their own. The point of this whole piece is that white people have a totally different set of laws that are used whenever they commit crimes. Black offenders are only hit with felony charges, no matter how low the offense. Meanwhile, white offenders are always the first to claim that they've been overcharged. It's a pathetic example of the institutional white privilege that they have given themselves under U.S. law. And you'll notice that even the family of the late Tucholsky manages to let it all go. As white people, they all depend upon an inherent framework of white exemptions from law. It's the unspoken understanding that white people have where the criminal justice system is concerned. You heard it from the judge himself, that everyone had looked away from the road while driving. As white people, they can't really demand that other whites have the book thrown at them when they all depend on the same legal immunity for their own behavior. You and I have to play by the rules. White people get to make them up as they go along. And so the kindly bus driver from Minnesota, who for 50 years every Friday told his little passengers, "Whoopee, it's Friday," has been killed with impunity, and his killer, whose story clearly didn't wash, isn't even going to be punished for it. Joseph Tucholsky has become yet another victim of white privilege. And so it won't be long at all before I have to report to you about yet another tragedy in the self-inflicted genocide of white-on-white crime.